The sun's rays shine on the sacred mountain Mount Nantai. The name Nikko means the rays of the sun. The eternal brilliance of the light of the sun has been worshipped from ancient times. The light of the sun continues to shine on the magnificent natural surroundings and on the works of man here at Nikko. Hence, the name of this sacred place, Nikko, the rays of the sun. 1,250 years ago, a lone monk climbed to the summit of Mount Nantai and built a small hermitage there. Thus began the history of Nikko as a place of pilgrimage. The Nikko-zan Ninnoji Temple protects the legacy of that lone monk, Shodo, who founded Nikko. The roots of Futarasan Shrine can be traced back to the animist worship of the mountains that stretches back to prehistory. Much later in the early 17th century, the Nikko Toshogu Shrine, famous for the magnificence of its architecture, was built to enshrine Tosho Daigongen. This is the name given to Tokugawa Ieyasu, who founded the Tokugawa shogunate in 1603, when he became a Shinto deity after his death. The 103 buildings and the historical and natural surroundings of Nikko were inscribed on the World Heritage List in 1999. The history of Nikko is a history born of religious belief. Since ancient times, the Japanese have believed that mountains are the dwelling places of the gods and have held nature in deep reverence. The shrines and temples of Nikko date back over 1,200 years. But the origins of Nikko as a sacred site date back to the more ancient veneration of Mount Nantai and the surrounding mountains. In 766 AD, a Buddhist monk called Shodo decided to ascend Mount Nantai. Legend has it that he called on the protection of the Shinto and Buddhist deities when he crossed the Daya River at the foot of the Nikko mountain range. The bridge which stands at the place where he crossed is still venerated as a sacred bridge. It is said that Shodo built a hermitage after he crossed the river Daya. He built Shihon-ryuji Temple, which later became Nikko-zan Ninnoji Temple, and also the Hongu Shrine, which became the Nikko Futarasan Shrine. In 782, Shodo finally reached the summit of Mount Nantai. There, he constructed a small Shinto shrine to enshrine the deity that dwells on Mount Nantai. A shrine still stands there to this day. He also built other shrines and temples, including a combined shrine temple at Lake Chuzenji. Thus, Nikko began to flourish as a place of pilgrimage for the worship of the deities that dwell in the mountains. In 1616, Tokugawa Ieyasu passed away. Tokugawa Ieyasu united Japan and put an end to centuries of civil war. He established a samurai government in Edo, present-day Tokyo, that lasted until 1867. After his death, he was enshrined as a Shinto deity at Nikko-zan. Tokugawa Ieyasu is interred and enshrined in a special building, the Hoto, which stands behind the Nikko Toshogu Shrine. Why did Tokugawa Ieyasu choose Nikko as his final resting place? In his will, Ieyasu left instructions that a small building should be built at Nikko and that he should be enshrined as a deity there. He chose Nikko because it was revered by so many military men who ascribed to mountain worship. By his enshrinement as a deity at Nikko, it is believed that Ieyasu hoped to be able to maintain peace in Japan for all eternity. In accordance with his will, Ieyasu's remains were moved to Nikko-zan 1 year after his death, and a shrine called the Toshosha was built. The chief monk of Nikko-zan, Tenkai, was ordered by Ieyasu to build the Toshosha shrine, the predecessor to the Toshogu shrine, and he devoted himself to its construction. Tenkai was instrumental in the granting of the prestigious religious title of Tosho Daigongen to Ieyasu after he was enshrined as a deity. The third shogun, Iemitsu, rebuilt the Toshosha shrine to create the Toshogu shrine, which was completed in 1636. Nikko, which had flourished as a center of mountain worship, became even more popular as a place of pilgrimage with the completion of the Toshogu. Nature and architecture come together in harmony at Nikko. The inscription of the shrines and temples of Nikko on the World Heritage List includes the 103 buildings of Nikko-zan Ninnoji Temple, Futara-san Shrine, and the Toshogu Shrine, and the landscape in which they stand. The juxtaposition of the highly sophisticated architecture and the beauty of their natural surroundings is one of the allures of Nikko. Nikko-zan Ninnoji Temple is composed of 15 buildings, including the Three Buddha Main Hall, the Taiyuin Mausoleum where the third shogun, Iemitsu, rests, and various other sub-temples, halls, and towers. Every morning, the massive, tall doors of the Three Buddha Hall are opened. This hall, the largest building in Nikko, is the heart of the Ninnoji Temple. Three glittering gilded Buddha statues are worshipped here. The Senju Kannon Buddha with 1,000 hands represents Mount Nantai. The Amida Nyodai Buddha embodies Mount Nyoho. And Mount Taro is the horse-headed Bato Kannon. By enshrining the deities of the mountains as Buddhas, the ancient faith of mountain worship takes on physical form at Nikko. This is the site of Shihon Ryuji, where holy priest Shoto established Nikko when he first constructed a small shrine. It later became Ninnoji Temple. This is the Kaizando, or the Founder's Hall. The saint Shoto rests here, and there is a seated statue of him in the hall. His grave stands in eternal silence behind the hall.
古いものがあって、骨があって、肉があって、血が通っていて、生きている、呼吸している、それが評価されてこその世界遺産だと思います。古いものが自然の中にあるというのではなくて、今でもそれが機能している、息づいている、1250年の時の流れの中のそういう精神が流れ続けているということを見ていただければと思っています。
The Futara-san shrine traces its roots back to mountain worship. It comprises the two shrines, the Honsha, which is divided into a main shrine and a worship hall, and the Betsugu. Every year, many people come to the worship hall to pray to the deities or to take part in the frequent festivals. Unseen behind the worship hall is the main shrine, which was completed in 1619. This building is particularly important because the carvings, lacquer, and polychrome decoration are all original and can be dated to the completion of the shrine. The Hongu shrine stands where the original Futara-san shrine was located. The original buildings were destroyed by fire. The present building dates back to 1685. The Takino-o shrine is located deep in the mountains and may be reached by walking the moss-covered stone path that leads to the shrine. It is said that you will have good fortune if, in 3 tries, you can throw a small stone through a hole in the Torii gate at the entrance to the shrine compound.
お二良山神社というのは縁結びの神大覚様をお祭りしておりますので、みんなに良い縁幸せを与える神様です。ぜひともお立ち寄りをいただいて、本当の日光のパワーというものを味わっていただきたいと思っております。
The deity Tokugawa Ieyasu is enshrined at the Toshogu Shrine. The shrine buildings include 8 national treasures and 34 important cultural properties. Ieyasu is interred in the Hoto Sacred Tower, which is the innermost sanctum of the Toshogu. The first Tokugawa shogun, Ieyasu, initiated an era of peace in Japan that lasted for 260 years, and Nikko Toshogu continues to pass on his teachings. The main hall, stone chamber, and worship hall stand at the heart of the Toshogu. They are designated as a national treasure since they represent the perfection of the Gongen Zukuri style of Shinto architecture. The Yomeimon Gate, also a national treasure, was completed in 1636. There are over 500 exquisitely carved sculptures adorning the gate, each beautifully decorated. There are in total over 5,100 sculptures at Toshogu, all of which represent some aspect of Ieyasu's desire to create peace in Japan. One of the most famous sculptures is the sleeping cat. On the reverse side of the sculpture are 2 carved sparrows. If the cat were to wake, the sparrows might be eaten. But since the cat is dozing, the cat and the sparrows can coexist in peace and harmony. This sculpture is thus a representation of an age of peace. These are the famous 3 monkeys of Nikko, who see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil. They represent the teaching that children should not see evil, say evil things, or listen to evil words. This famous sculpture is actually one of 8 panels that depict, in the life of monkeys, teachings pertinent to each stage of the life of mankind.
現在私たちは家康公のことを平和を実現した神様ということで崇敬しておりますので、東照宮は皆さんに平和を祈願していただくそういう場所だということも言えます。東照宮では御本社の修理、そして陽明門の修理が終わりまして、今まさにその輝きを取り戻したところでございますから、ぜひその金色に輝く姿を自らの目で確認していただけたらいいかなというふうに思っております。
This is the Taiyuin Mausoleum, where the third shogun Iemitsu rests. He ordered the building of the Toshogu out of his immense respect for his grandfather Ieyasu. The core color scheme of the Toshogu shrine is white and gold. In contrast, the Taiyuin Mausoleum's color scheme is a more understated black and gold. The main hall and the worship hall are designated as national treasures. The interiors make lavish use of gold, such that the buildings are alternatively referred to as the Kinkakuden, or the Golden Hall. The world of the shrines and temples of Nikko is a beautiful harmony between nature and architecture. The shrines and temples of Nikko preserve traditional craftsmanship and ancient traditions. The shrines and temples of Nikko have been restored regularly since the 17th century, preserving traditional craftsmanship as a result. A major restoration project started in 2007 at the Three Buddha Hall of the Nikko-zan Rinnoji Temple. This was the first major restoration in almost 50 years. You can watch the restoration work in progress from the walkway in the sky of the temporary building that covers the hall. The walkway is 26 meters up from the ground, roughly at the level of the roof of the Three Buddha Hall. The restoration of the sacred bridge of the Nikko Futarasan Shrine took almost 8 years, starting in 1997. In winter, bitter cold descends on the shrines and temples of Nikko. Even in winter, work continues on the major restoration project at the Toshogu Shrine, which started in 2007. This is the restoration of the roof of the Toshogu main shrine. In the lacquering process, 2 to 3 coats of lacquer, a natural protective coating used in Japan since ancient times, are applied to the existing lacquer base, restoring the brilliance and luster for which lacquer is known. Polychrome decoration is restored to its original glory. Brushstroke by brushstroke, this is very delicate and skilled work.
オリジナルがありまして、それを変えてはいけないっていうのが大前提にあるんですけども、その全てをやっぱり美しい状態のまま後世に残していくっていうのが今生きてる我々の使命だと思っているので。
Only lacquer produced in Japan and original materials for the other decorations are used in the work at the Toshogu Shrine. Even the tools and techniques used by the craftsmen are unchanged since the 17th century. Only the very high standards of traditional craftsmanship used in the restoration work at Nikko and nowhere else in Japan have been passed down unchanged in their original form and been recognized as such by the Japanese government.
昔からずっと続いてきた仕事、建物 を残す意味で、これからも後の世代に残していくっていう意味では大切なことかなっていうふうに思っています。
These skills will continue to be passed down for as long as the shrines and temples of Nikko survive. The townspeople are also maintaining the ancient traditions of Nikko. In the spring, festive floats ornament the town of Nikko. This is the annual Yayoi festival of the Futara-san Shrine. Local people come together to pull the floats through the town, heralding the arrival of spring. The shrines and temples come to life with the bursting of the new leaves. Nikko Toshogu Shrine holds its most important festivals in the spring and autumn. In the 1000 Samurai Procession, locals reenact the translation of Tokugawa Ieyasu to Nikko Toshogu in 1617 from his original resting place at Kunozan Toshogu in distant Shizuoka Prefecture, south of Tokyo. They wear suits of armor and other traditional costumes, just like in the pictorial scrolls of the original procession. On New Year's Eve, the solemn tolling of the temple bell sounds across the shrines and temples of Nikko. At Nikkozan Rinnoji Temple, monks perform a fire ritual. They burn wooden tablets inscribed with prayers. Those assembled offer thanks for the year now ending and prayers for happiness in the year to come. The first sunrise of the new year shines down on a new beginning for the people of Nikko. The town of Nikko is not just an old town where traditions are preserved. The townspeople strive daily to protect the legacy passed down to them by their ancestors to the next generation. Nikko is sacred ground where Japanese people have worshipped since ancient times. And the shrines and temples here are now a World Heritage Site. The people who live in Nikko carry on the traditions of their ancestors. And visitors from around the world come to Nikko to see its wonderful buildings and its beautiful setting. The shrines and temples of Nikko stand as sentinels to the passing of time, and the brilliant light that they radiate will shine for all eternity. The shrines and temples of Nikko. Eternity in the mountains of Nikko.